I'm glad that you chose the Ideal Church. If you're visitors, to come today to be blessed. I'm going to jump right onto the word of the Lord today. And I ask that the secretaries and everyone work real fast to get in, that they might hear what the Lord have to say to the church. Tell your neighbor you're in the right place at the right time. I'm troubled today. I would like for all of the ladies and men to hear me well. Over the course of the years, I've spoken on many subjects. I've covered many topics. I've spoken on subjects like families. I've spoken on relationships. I've spoken on character. I have spoken on homosexualities, marriage and divorce. But today I'm going to address a subject that I've talked on, counseled on, and not only counseled on, but had talk shows on, but never preached on. This came to me last evening as I was sitting in a funeral that I can't get out of my mind, a funeral that stayed with me from the time I went to even now, that prompted me to talk on this subject today. As I was sitting yesterday, my heart was broken. I was looking at two young boys who had lost their mother. I was looking at a mother and father who had lost their daughter. I was looking at cousins and nephews and relatives who was weeping, who had lost their loved one at the age of 44. At the hands of a man who said, "I would rather kill you than to let you go." As I was sitting there, the Lord was speaking to me. And a young man got up and he said, "We need to talk today about domestic violence." He said, "It's been too long in our families." I want to talk today about domestic violence. My subject today is what's behind your makeup. Can I speak with you today? I'm not concerned today about making you shout. I'm concerned today about helping you to live. And that's live longer. What's behind your makeup? Makeup is a cover-up. Excuse me, sisters. Makeup covers a lot of blemishes. Makeup covers a lot of wrinkles and things that we develop. Nothing wrong with makeup. We make up a smile to hide our pain. I want to uncover what's behind our makeup. Domestic violence is real. I came home yesterday and I could not stop, went straight to my office, grabbed the pen, and began to listen to God. And I want you to hear me well today. Domestic violence is real. Domestic violence is defined as the willful intimidation, physical assault, battery, sexual assault, or other abusive behavior perpetrated by an intimate partner against another. On average, nearly 20 people per minute are victim of physical violence by a partner in the U.S. More than 10 million women and men experience domestic violence each year. On a typical day, there are more than 20,000 calls that are placed to domestic violence hotlines nationwide. There are 1 in 7 women will experience somebody stalking them during their lifetime. Intimate partners violence is most common among women between the ages of 18 through 24. And 72% of all murder-suicides involved an intimate partner. Somebody become murdered, a lady become murdered now or murdered, first thing they look for is their partner. The cost of domestic violence exceeds $8.3 billion per year, and that is with a B. I'm going to preach today, but you got to hear me well. Over the past few months, the national news has focused on the reality of domestic violence due to the circulation of a video of an NFL player hitting his girlfriend, now wife, in an elevator. But before that film was circulated, women have been abused, misused, and mistreated ever since biblical days. It saddens my heart. I awakened last Sunday morning to a text I received from one of our members whose cousin, aged 44, was shot and killed by an ex-husband who had been separated from her over 15 years, married to someone else, but saying, "I refuse to let you go." Ladies, you're going to have to be careful who you hook up with in the first place, because there are some men just won't let you go. Domestic violence works on both sides, male or female, because we do have female abusers. But it's more so with the male. You've been hearing the news on this week. We saw the news of an ex-Dallas Cowboy player, daughter in her 40s, or 49 years of age, I believe she was. She was murdered in her apartment. Murdered in her apartment without anybody breaking in. Murdered in her apartment without anything being ramshacked. That's an easy case for the police because they know it's somebody who had a key. Ladies, you got to be careful of who you give a key to. Hear me well today. Did not come by to scold anybody, but I come by to preach to you. They had the film, they had the incoming and the outgoing of him, and it was catching up with him, so he goes to Arkansas and kills himself. If you want to kill somebody, kill yourself and leave other folks alone. Even as we speak, someone is being abused right now. Sad to say it, but some of you sitting here now are being abused, but you're hiding it behind your makeup. You're hiding it from your relatives. You're hiding it from your families. Some of our families know what's going on. Some of us know that you're being abused. It is time for us as pastors. It is time for the church to start addressing these issues. I may say some things today across America that you may not agree with, but stay with me anyway. The churches need to start addressing these issues. And let's get some better advice to counsel those individuals. We're counseling, but how wise is our counsel? I asked that question because there was a young woman who tweeted on September the 8th this year and said, I stayed in my abusive relationship because my pastor said God hates divorce. I stayed in my relationship because my pastor says God hates divorce. That pastor evidently did not read, brothers and sisters in the church. Has it ever crossed your mind that God hates abuse also? We have to be careful what we tell people, especially in leadership roles. I always tell people when they come to me and talking about what's going on, nobody knows what's going on in your house better than you. We got to be careful to tell people they ought to stay in something when we don't really know what they're in and what they're going through. Because if somebody gets murdered because you told them to hang in there, there's some blood going to be required on somebody else's hand as well. I know it's going to get controversial. God hates abuse also. One lady said, I'm afraid to confide in the elders or the members of the church because the members will say a whole lot of things about me. The elder will say a whole lot of things. She said she tried hoping for support and encouragement from the church, but left feeling more guilty because she was told that the abuse may be a lack of her being submissive to her husband. You got to watch that word submissive. You cannot take the Bible out of its contextuality. You're submissive as long as he's in the will of God. But you don't have to stay there and get your head beat. You don't have to stay there and be abused because God hates abuse. Church, we got to be careful. We'll tell people to hang in something when we won't hang in it ourselves. Just one threaten of a lick will make you leave. And why would you tell somebody you see their eyes are battered, you see their lips are burst, but you tell them to hang in there, God will make a way. God has made a way for them to get out of what they're in. She said they told her that the lack of being submissive or that her faith was not strong. And if you just hang on in there, God will come to your rescue. You got to understand the biblical contextualities of all of those scriptures. We must really see what the Bible has to say about all of those situations. Malachi 2:13 through 16 addresses the reality of domestic violence. Domestic violence is real. Now, I took the scriptures in Malachi chapter 2 and verses 13 through 16. And this is what it says, and I want you to listen to me well. He says, another thing you do, you flood the Lord's altar with your tears. You weep and wail because he no longer pays attention to what you're doing to your offering or accept them with pleasure from your hand. And you ask the question, why don't the Lord accept my offering? And the Lord said, it is because the Lord is acting as the witness between you and the wife of your youth, because you have broken faith with her, though she is your partner, the wife of your marriage covenant, but you have broken faith with her. Has not the Lord made them one in flesh and spirit? They are his. And why one? Because he was seeking godly offspring. So guard yourself in your spirit, and do not break faith with the wife of your covenant. 16 says, I hate divorce, said the Lord God of Israel. But you got to also see what else he said. I hate a man covering himself with violence as well as with his garment, says the Almighty. So guard yourself in your spirit and do not break faith. Let me tell you what that scripture is really saying. He's saying the husband and his wife is one. But when the man steps out of his boundary and become violent to his spouse, he said, you have already broken your faith. And when you break your faith, you don't hear what I'm saying. You don't want to hear what I'm saying. When you break your faith, you break your trust, you break your confidence. And the Bible says you're free. Because he is not going to even accept your offering because of what you're doing to your wife. These husbands here were weeping and wailing before the Lord and offering sacrifice to him. They were rejected. Why? According to verse 16, the Lord hate divorce, and the Lord hate a man who covers himself with violence towards his spouse. Though there is some debate about how to translate verse 16. Now, the NIV text indicate that when it comes to discussing family health, churches ought to address intimate violence in a special way, because we have a lot of violence in our church. We have a lot of our sisters are sitting here each Sunday in a violent relationship. They don't know how to get out of it. A lot of times people stand on the outside and say, baby, if I were you, I will leave him. But there is something going on in that victim mind where she knows in her heart and in her mind, if she leaves, she might be destroyed by him. And she has a lot of things from her mama and her siblings and her family. She has a lot of things what she's going through because they told her in the first place she was messing up getting in that relationship. I want to work with some scriptures today. According to scriptures, a person engaging in verbal or sexual or physical violence against an intimate partner or family member is committing sin. Say it with me. The person who's committing violence is committing sin. The Malachi passage is not alone. I'm going to give you some scriptures today. I'm going to preach. Genesis 1 and 2 articulates marriage as a helping relationship. For is in the unity and equality of one flesh. Brothers and sisters, and especially brothers. Now, you got to understand how we are as men. God has made us the head, but when it comes to marriage, we are one. And nobody going to abuse their own body. You got to be careful how you treat your mate. And the mate got to be careful how she treat her mate. Because this thing go hand in hand. God has made the husband and wife one. Come on, say one. God has made them one. God has made them one. Bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. God has made us one. Psalms 11 and 5 notes that the Lord hates with a passion those who love violence. If you check out Isaiah 59, it does not mention specific sins, but clearly condemns, in verse 2, those whose hands are stained with blood and fingers with guilt. And again in verse 6, that those who commit acts of violence with their hands doing evil deeds. God hates violence. I say God hates violence. Matthew 8, 1 through 10 describes children as those highly regarded in the kingdom of God, and therefore to be welcomed, honored, and protected. We got to protect our children. Say, we got to protect our children. Our children see too much violence in the home. Our children hear too much cussing at one another in the home. Our children sees too much contention in the home. We got to be careful because we're not protecting our children. And any parents who cuss their children out, is something wrong with their mentality. Any parents call their children bastards and other things like that are doing wrong. Anytime you use curse words in front of your children, you're filling their minds and heart with accusations and things that they're going to use on somebody else. Be careful, little tongue, what you say. Be careful, mouth, what you say, because you are destroying your family with your mouth. 1 Corinthians 13 offers a portrait of love that is patient and kind, free of intimidation, abuse, or violence. And then Ephesians 5 and 21 discusses mutual submission. Ephesians 5, 25 and through 33 calls upon a husband to love your wife as Christ loved the church. Say, I gotta love my wife as Christ died for as Christ loved the church. You got to understand that we have to do that. They are a little weaker vessel in a lot of areas, but we ought to love them, not rule over them, but be submissive one to another. Help me, somebody. You can't walk in there saying, I'm the boss. Come on, help me. You can't walk in there saying, I'm the boss. You're going to have to learn to agree with one another and be submissive one to another. Just like you want her to submit to you, you got to submit to her as well. Domestic violence is a sin. Domestic violence is a sin. When a person engaged in verbal, and that's verbal mean abuse with your mouth, sexual or domestic violence, he or she has broken faith with his or her husband or wife. Domestic violence is far too often a dirty secret happening behind closed doors and weakly filling church pews and suffering silence. A whole lot of us are suffering in silence. But I want somebody to say no more. No more suffering in silence. No more suffering in silence. No more hiding behind the makeup. Somewhere along the line, we got to come out front and say enough is enough. And I don't believe America is tired right now. Women, there comes a time where you say enough is enough. Come on, help me, somebody. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. But how do I get out of this enough? I feel in my heart that there are people sitting here now suffering. You don't have no physical marks on you, but you've been verbal, beat down, told you was nothing, told you was too large, told you you didn't have sense, called stupid, called ugly. Come on, help me, somebody. You've been called so much names now until you've lost your self-esteem. You got to watch a man who continue to try to change you and mold you, call you stupid, tell you you don't know how to do nothing. He's molding you so he can rule you. I ain't going to get no amen. After a while, when he gets through squeezing you, you ain't going to be worth nothing because you're not going to even think that you're beautiful anymore. Say to yourself, I am beautiful. Say to yourself, I will not let nobody pull me down mentally. Because when you are mentally pulled down and drained, you start acting like you feel. You won't comb your hair. You won't wash your face because you are mentally drained. What's behind your makeup going to be revealed because I'm going to wash myself. And I'm going to tell myself that I am somebody. verbal, sexual, or domestic violence. Brothers and sisters, you can't walk around here and take it. I told you I'm going to get a little You have taken too much. You have taken people more. You have taken people's character. Anybody can have a baby, but everybody can't be a parent. There are too many babies in our society and not enough parents. Got them calling you daddy in California, Louisiana, Mississippi. You got babies everywhere. You ain't nothing but a tramp. Domestic violence, secret happening behind closed doors. They said what happens behind closed doors will eventually, may take a year, may take 2 years, may take 3 years, but it will eventually come out. Domestic violence is a sin. If we're going to be God people, we got to start teaching that domestic violence is sin. And we're going to have to stop misquoting the scripture, making people stay in a relationship where you know they're being destroyed. I want to tell you something as being your pastor. If I was married to a lady that was hitting my head and beating my head and in domestic violence, every time I go home, she got a gun on me. I'm being a verbal and physical abuse. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm going to hit the road, Jack, and no coming back. No more, no more. It doesn't matter what you say. The sad thing about domestic violence, it's been going on ever since Bible days. The sad thing about domestic violence has been going on ever since Bible days. 2 Samuel chapter 13 tells us about violence against women. Amon, the son of David, raped his sister Tamar. Raped his sister. His sister was a beautiful lady. His sister had morals. She had character. She had never been with a man. And her brother, looking at her with a lustful eye, he looked at her so until it made him sick. Other words, he was so in love with her, it made him sick. It made him physically sick. And then there was a man who came to him and said, "What's wrong with you?" He said, "I'm in love with my sister." And this man was a no good man. You got to watch out, brothers and sisters, for no good folks who whisper in your ear and tell you it's all right to do what's in your mind. Come on, help me somebody. You got to learn how to think for yourself, because you always got whisperers that whisper in your ear to tell you it's all right. It ain't all right to commit sin against men or women. He looked at him and said, "I tell you what to do. You go and lie down. And when you go and lie down, I'm going to tell David to send Tamar over to you and feed you." Tamar goes into where her brother is, and he's lying in the bed. And as he's lying in the bed, he said, "I want you to fix me some food and bring it to me." Sisters, you got to be careful who you fix food for. Y'all don't like me now. You got to be careful who you fix food for. Because sometimes you fix food for the man that ain't going to leave you no more and not going to let you go. She goes in and she prepares a meal, and he said, "Come into my room." She comes into the room. Y'all know the story. Read it sometime when you get home. She comes into the room with the food, and he tells all of his servants, I want y'all to get out of here. Close the door behind you. She comes in, and he looks at her, and he said, bring the food to my bed. It's right there in your Bible. Bring the food to my bed. She brings the food to his bed, and then he grabs her, and she says, no. When the word no come up, no mean no. Oh, y'all ain't with me. Come on, I said no mean no. Well, you say she led me in here, but if she said no, no mean no. Help me somebody. Shout it out. No means no. Shout it out one more time. And once you pass the no and continue, then you're in the act of violence. Once you pass the O in the no, you're in an act now of violence. Oh, y'all ain't like, you're in an act of violence right there once you pass the O in the no. He passed the O in the no. He raped his own sister. When he finished raping his own sister, Lord, I wish I had me a praying church. I told you it's going to get controversial. When he raped his own sister, after he finished, something came over him. And the same way he loved her, he started hating her with the same spirit and told her to get out of the room and told his servant to come and put her out and lock the door behind her. One thing about some men, when they get what they want, they don't want you no more. They're ready to put you out and walk all over you. But you ought to holler no more. It's right there in the text. Read the text. As she came out, she had a royal robe that she wore because she was the king's daughter. And she had been pure, being the king's daughter. But now he had robbed her of the most important thing that she had. And now she was feeling guilty of what happened. She was walking around in guilt. That's the problem with this whole thing. Too many women are walking around in guilt when it's not your fault. You're walking around in guilt because somebody raped you and it's not your fault. Somewhere along the line, you got to look in the mirror and say, it's not my fault. But it leaves you with guilt. It leaves you with hatred. That's why we got so many women that hate us. She comes out of the room. She tore her robe. Tore her robe because she was hurt. Absalom sees her. That's his other brother. That's the brother. He sees her and he says, what happened? Amon has raped you. And he saw tears in her eyes, crying, depressed. He took her into his own house and vowed in his heart that I'm going to kill my brother Amon. Took him a couple of years, but he killed him. Took him a couple of years, but he paid him back for killing his sister. Domestic violence among family folks. Domestic violence in the home. You want to talk about domestic violence, right? There is no sadder story in the Bible than you will find in the book of Judges. In the book of Judges, I believe it's Judges 19, you'll find a very sad story. One of the saddest stories of domestic violence you'll find. Chapter 19 of Judges. You read it sometime. This man had a concubine. There was a lot of no good folks in the Bible. Help me somebody. There was a lot of no good folks in the Bible. Are you with me? This man had a concubine. Not only did he have a concubine, but this particular concubine, she was very unfaithful. But the husband said, I want to go get her. And he went down to her father's house where she was to get her back. And the father invited him to stay 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights, 4 nights. But the 5th night he said, I got to get out of here. And there was an old man working in the field while these people was just sitting out here in the yard. And he said, do you have a place to go? And he said, no, we don't have a place to go for the night. We're traveling on our way back to our homeland. This old man invited him in. But there was some fellas in the city who saw the old man take. They weren't looking for his concubine or his wife. They were looking for the man who had gone into the house. And these fellas perverted in their mind, perverted in their nature. Help me somebody. Perverted in their thoughts. They went to the old man's house and say, let us have the old man. Let us have the man that we saw go into your house. To show you how they was abusing women. The old man looked at him and said, don't bother the man. They say, no, we want the man. Oh, help me right now. Because I'm finna get beside myself. You used to have to be careful who you let your daughters go out with if they was a man. Now you got to be careful to let your daughters go out with if they was a lady. Help me somebody. Help me somebody. I used to look at a show called Scandal. I quit looking at it because there's too many men kissing men. Tried to look at a show called Murder, How to Get Away with Murder. Find out there are too many things going on that's perverted. But it's right here in the Bible. Help me somebody. It didn't start yesterday. Y'all getting upset with me? Just get on upset with me. It didn't start yesterday. He said, I don't want the girls. I want the man that came in the house. And the old man convinced him and said, I have a daughter and I have a concubine. They took the concubine, they domestic violence, the concubine, they raped her all night long. And then after they finished with her, they laid her at the door of the old man's house. And when he got up that morning, he went out there and picked her up, but there was no life in her. Help me somebody. When the devil gets through with you, when he robs you of everything, he throws you to the side, and you are not fit for anything after that. But that wasn't the end of the story. That wasn't the end of the story. The man got the concubine, put it on his beast, and got home and cut her up. Took a knife, it's right there in your Bible, Judges 19, took a knife and cut her up into 12 pieces. Every piece represented a tribe of Israel. Cut her up into 12 pieces. Let me tell y'all something. He took the 12 pieces and mailed it throughout the country. Read it when you go home. That's domestic violence. He sent it to all the coast of Israel. And if you look at Judges 19 and 30, it reads like this. And everyone who saw it says, we have never seen anything like this until this day. And it says, consider it. Take advice and speak your minds. And that is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to speak my mind because I've seen too much domestic violence. I'm going to speak my mind. I'm going to speak for the women. I'm going to say women are saying that's enough. I'm going to say women are tired of being abused. I'm going to say men stand up and be men. You got to come to yourself. Men, we must be men and not abusers. You cannot abuse a woman. I want to talk today real briefly. I wish everybody had their husband here. Are they significant others? Whatever you call them, significant others. Significant others that you're hiding in the closet. Come on, help me somebody. Y'all ain't gonna like me, but you know, the truth of the matter is, just about everybody got somebody they hiding in the closet. They got somebody they done brought out, and they got some of them they ain't going to bring out because they know he crazy. They know he crazy. That's why they don't bring him out. They don't bring him to mama and them house or nobody because they know he crazy. But yet they love crazy. Women, you got to stop loving crazy. Say, I got to stop loving crazy. Let's look at the forms of domestic violence, and I'm just about home. There are 5 forms of domestic violence: physically, sexual, psychological, emotional, and economic. Can I talk about that just a few moments? Can I talk about it a few moments? I don't mean no harm, but I want you to buy this tape. And I want you to take this tape to your home. I want you to take this tape to your office or wherever you go. Take this tape. Physically, inflicting or attempting to inflict physical injury. Brothers, watch this now. It say grabbing her, pinching her, shoving, slapping, hitting, biting, arm twisting, kicking, punching, hitting with blunt object, stabbing, and shooting. That's physical. That's physical. Women, if you're in any of these relationships, you're going to have to check it. Because when he grab you and punch you and shove you, he going to say, I'm doing it because I love you. Love is not abusive. Y'all don't hear me. Love is not abusive. Love is kind. Love is long-suffering. When somebody is twisting your arm and slapping you, that's abusive. And look what else they do to you physically. They'll withhold access to resources necessary to maintain your health. They'll hide your medication. Medicare, they'll take your wheelchair if you're in a wheelchair. They're on drugs. If they're on drugs, they'll try to force you into taking alcohol, force you into trying to use the drugs that they are using. Tell you it's all right. Help me, somebody. What's behind your makeup? Tell you it's all right. They're trying to get you under their control, physically under their control. And then sexual, say sexual, attempting to coerce any sexual contact without consent. There are several kinds of rape. You can be married to a woman and yet rape her. Marital rape, acquaintance rape, forced sex after physical beating. He'll beat you up good and then want to have sex with you. The devil is a lie. Bitter and sweet don't go together. Blood and love don't go together. You got to have one without the other. If there is blood, there shouldn't be love. Attacking. Lord, help me to keep this clean. Please help me, Lord. Attacking the sexual parts of your body. Got to move on from that. That's going to get a little hot. Attempting to undermine the victim, sexuality. Treating him or her in a sexual downward manner. Criticizing their performance. Accusation of infidelity. You may not like me. But you got to watch it when your husband or your wife come in always accusing you of somebody else. Sometimes it ain't nothing but a cover-up. Because many times what you do the most is the foremost thing in your mind. Psychological. Don't let nobody leave, Sister Ursula. Psychological. Psychological, they try to intimidate you. They intimidate you by doing this. Baby, if you leave me, I'm going to kill myself. They always talk about harming themselves. They always make themselves the victim. They always talk about, if you do this, well, I'm going to do this to myself. And then they threaten to harm. Or if you leave me, I'm going to kidnap the children. Psychological, blackmail, harassment. If you got a dog, they say, I'm going to kill your dog. Property. They play mind games. They're out there stalking you, in there getting grocery. And they're out there in Walmart parking lot stalking you. Help me, somebody. Stalking you and all of those things. You got to watch this one also, because what they do psychological, they attempt to isolate you from your friends, from your family, from your school, and from your work. They don't want you to go to mama's house no more. They don't want you to go to sister's house no more. They tell you on Thanksgiving we can have dinner by ourselves. They try to pull you from your family so they can put all of them upon you. Isolation. They want access to your phone. Every time somebody calls, who that? Help me, somebody, huh? And then when you're out of the room, they check the number. They want you to be on a family plan so they can check the plan. The devil is a lie. Withholding transportation, undermining the victim personal relationship. Don't want you to have no friends, harassing others, constant checking up on you. Every 30 minutes you get a phone call. You're trying to work, get a phone call. Shows up on your job unexpected. Unfound accusation. Keeping you at home, won't let you go nowhere. Come on, help me, somebody. Brothers and sisters, our wives are not kids. They are our wives. And there is a respect that they owe to you and you owe to them. Help me, somebody. You do not really have to go everywhere she goes. You got to have trust in a relationship. You got to have trust in a relationship. If you don't trust one another, you don't have no relationship. It's not good enough for you to just say me and you and nobody else. He's trying to isolate you. He's trying to get you away from everybody. You got to watch a sneaky person like that. They're never satisfied. They're always bringing up your old life. Always talking about back yonder. Let me tell y'all something. Y'all ain't gonna like me right now. Everybody in here have had past relationship. But what's in the past is in the past. That does not have to do anything with the future. Help me, somebody. Say the past is the past. Forgetting those things which are behind me. That means that woman, that man, that everything. Forgetting those things which are behind me. And thanking God for what I have right now. Emotional abuse, undermining, or attempting to undermine your sense of worth, your sense of value, constant criticizing you, constant belittling you, talking about your ability, name calling, insulting you, trying to put you down. And then the old treatment that y'all do, silent treatment. Manipulating victim feeling and emotion to induce guilt. They'll beat you down until you start feeling guilty of something you didn't do. Got you apologizing for something that really didn't happen. And you say, well, I'm just going to apologize. I don't know what he's talking about, but I'm going to apologize. You can't really apologize for something if you don't know what it is. Repeatedly making and breaking promises to you. Economically, making or attempting to make the victim financially dependent upon them. Maintaining total control over financial resources. Even control your money. You bring it home and he said, give it to me. My problem these days are many. 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 My problem these days are many because most of the men don't have any. Women have spoiled men. And now they're suffering the consequences of it. You say, baby, you don't have to bring nothing to the table. Just come on and be my boyfriend or be my significant others. I got this. You can drive my car. You can get on my bank account. If he don't have no money to bring to the table, don't put him on your bank account. And sure don't put a man that you ain't married to on your bank account. He doesn't have no business having your PIN number to your MasterCard and your Visa and your American Express. Y'all aren't going to like me. Anybody here ever go fishing? You got to have a license to go fishing. If you go deer hunting, you got to have a license. If you go coon hunting, you got to have a license. How is it we can go women hunting and stay with them and don't have no license? I was just about putting money on it. When he stayed with you 5, 6, and 7 years, he ain't gonna marry you. Financial resources. Take your welfare check. Got access to your money. Can't even go to night school. Got to know everybody on your job. Help me, somebody. Require you to be accountable to him for every move you make. You got to watch all those things. Harassment, requiring accountability and justification for all the money you spent. You know, I think husband and wife sometimes have to see what they have to work with. But if you're not married to a person, I don't see why you got to let them know what you got. I'm finna cut a corner here now, and a whole lot of you go get upset with me. Even married men and married women, I want you to hear me well. Don't you think you're so smart that you know everything your wife has? Because the devil is a lie. A wife knows what she's married to, and a wife will hide stuff for hard times. There are not too many smart women broke. The husband might think she broke, but she got something put back somewhere, under the pillow or somewhere. I know what I'm talking about. I've been in this thing a long time. I've talked about a whole lot of things, and I'm just about there. Women that are in these relationships, women that are in these relationships, women that are in these relationships, it's hard to get out, but you need to right now get you a safety plan. You need a safety plan. You got to try to figure out, just like a fire escape, if you're in a building, they tell you how to escape. You need your master plan on how to get out. This young lady had been gone now separated for 15 years or more. But yet she comes home for Thanksgiving. And that's when he attacks her. He don't care who he's in front of, right before his mother. He takes a gun and he shoots her. Let me tell you something, when you get out of it, don't try to go back. Don't try to go back because he's trying to pull this here watery eye stuff on you, telling you he's sorry. You done been there before. He's not sorry. He's trying to get you to a point. Help me, you need a safety plan. Not that she didn't have one, because she was right there with his mother. You got to know exactly how you will leave your home if you're able to leave and choose to leave. You got to practice how to get out quickly. You got to know what doors and windows or elevators or stairwells or fire escape you got to use in case of a domestic emergency. You got to keep your wallet, your purse, and some money and car keys in a convenient spot so you can grab them and run. Y'all ain't liking me today. You got to notify your neighbor to be alert to suspicious noises coming from your home. Tell your neighbor, if you hear noise over here, if you hear some bumping over here, I want you to run over here quick. Call the police. If you got children, they know you're in an abusive relationship. You got to give your children and friends a code word to use if you want them to call for help. Other words, if y'all are in there and it's getting a little hot in the house, tell your children a code word. He won't even know what it is. Tell the children the code word is Gina. When I say Gina, you mean you get at it. Let them have a code word, all right? Y'all don't like me right now. You have a code to get in your house, right? If you got a burglar alarm, you got a code to get in. You got a code to set when you leave, right? Everything worked by codes, right? You need a code to get out of there quick, too. Your children will know the code. No safe places you could go if you need to leave a dangerous situation. Know the battered women's shelter number. If you do not know the battered women's shelter number, you need to have it in your phone if you're in this relationship. They got a hotline, and it's 1-800-572-7233. Don't call the hour of faith right then. You get out of there. Don't call 972-988-1040. Get out of there. Keep your important papers in one place so you can get to them quickly. Now, I want to give you something and I'm closing. Everybody knows that there are signs that you got to look for. The sad thing about it, other folks can see the signs before you. Because you in love. You in love. Can't nobody do it like him. Can't nobody do it like her. That's the greatest thing happened to you. He don't have to work. He don't have to take care of me. All he got to do is love me. That's the most stupid thing I ever heard in my life. Lord, help me here, huh? Nobody have it going on like that. Nobody have it going on like that. Matter of fact, you ain't that hot. There's signs to look for. Go in, he's talking about he go commit suicide or homicide. If he tell you he gonna kill himself, understand what he's saying. He's likely telling you he gonna kill you. Then he have a lot of fantasies of homicide. If he sees this as a solution to his problem, he may attempt it. Beware of abusers threatening to kill himself or herself because he planned to kill you first. He might kill himself, but after he has killed you. Because if he don't want to let you go, he ain't going to leave you here free. He going to get you first. Come on, help me somebody. He's going to get you first if that is his mindset. Then you got to watch it if he possesses weapons. If your abuser owns weapons, has used them or threatened to use them in the past, he takes it out of the drawer and kind of play with you with it. Be careful. Say, be careful. If your abuser believes you belongs to him, until death do us apart, you got to watch out. He's more likely to be life endangering. If your abusers idolize you or depend heavily on you to sustain him. Other words, sisters, if you have taken him in and he's not working, you're feeding him, you're giving him a place to stay, you're letting him drive your car, you're buying his clothes, you're doing everything for him, he more than likely ain't gonna let you go. Because he'll be putting his own self outdoors. All right? If he retaliates against you, if you decide to end the relationship, most relationship, is sad to say, don't end in peace. Why is it that you can't end a relationship and still smile and talk to the person? Most times it doesn't work like that. Help me somebody. Most times it doesn't work like that. Most times you have hate. That's wrong. It should end a little more peaceful, but it doesn't. Now, once you end it. Don't keep going back and forth, because you're confusing their minds. Help me, somebody. Pick up the phone, Johnny. I know we're upset, but can you just come over here tonight? The devil is a lie. You ain't that hot. He talks to you like this. Say, baby, if you leave me, I can't imagine life without you. He might try to kill you. Many murders happen when a woman is leaving her abusive partner. That's a dangerous time. 75% of women are seriously injured when they leave or try to leave an abusive relationship. When they start acting without consequences for their action, you're in a danger zone. Now, I got to leave you because I've said a whole lot. But as I leave you today, there's some hotline numbers out there in the lobby that you can call. I have the National Violence Hotline. I have the National Sexual Hotline. I have the National Teen Dating Hotline. As I close today, I want to say something to these teenagers. Some of you teenagers got to realize that you can't live until you get to certain points. Stop trying to act like you're grown when you're still 13 and 14 years old. You might be developed, you might be out there, but you're still a child. And you have to watch these old men who hang around your schools trying to be sugar daddies. Come on, help me, somebody. You don't need money that bad. You don't need no sugar daddy. And the old man walking around here 60 years old trying to date an 18-year-old talking about he's a sugar daddy. That man will kill you. Got his hair combed over. Miss Clairol, he'll hurt you. Can't get out of that. You don't need nothing like that. Whom the Lord and the Son set free becomes free indeed. Y'all may not like this message today, but this is what God has given me to give you on today.